What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ. This is Out of Bounds DFS, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at some more NBA single stat player props on the PrizePicks board, or if you play on different sports books, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, PointsBet. This video will definitely help you out and hopefully provide you with some excellent value. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. Here on this channel, we do single player daily fantasy sports. We also do player props. PrizePicks is our main focus right now. We're talking NBA. We're in the midst of the NBA season, so that is our primary focus at the moment. But if you're into any of that sort of stuff, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. I try to drop videos daily, at least Monday through Friday. Sometimes on the weekend, I'll drop a bonus video here and there, but we're on our way to 900 subscribers. I would love to hit that number by the end of April. So without further ado, we've got a massive NBA slate to talk about. Let's get into some player news real quick, and then we can start digging into single stat points, assists, rebounds, and 3 points made. And we'll hopefully land on some good plays like we did yesterday. So top of the board here, we've got the Grizzlies, DeAnthony Melton, leg injury. He's going to be out on Wednesday. Looks like the Orlando Magic Otto Porter is going to be out again Wednesday with a foot injury. Mo Bamba is dealing with a hip injury. He's questionable for the Orlando Magic. James Johnson, New Orleans Pelicans, is going to be questionable for Wednesday. Orlando's Chuma Okeke is also dealing with a hip injury. He's questionable for the Magic on Wednesday. Looks like the Rockets' Sterling Brown is dealing with a knee injury. He's going to be out on Wednesday. Jeremy Grant is not on Wednesday's injury report, so that's a pretty big name, an impactful piece of injury news there. So he should be playing for Detroit. Richaun Holmes is dealing with a hamstring injury. He's doubtful for the Kings, so that's a pretty big one to keep an eye on. Doesn't look like he's going to be playing. Also for the Kings, Buddy Hield is dealing with an illness. He's questionable for Wednesday, so we may not have Holmes or Buddy in the lineup for Sacramento. It looks like Darius Garland is questionable for Wednesday. He's dealing with an ankle injury, may keep him out of the Cavaliers lineup. Also dealing with an injury is the Cavaliers' Colin Sexton. He's got a groin issue, and he's questionable for Wednesday as well. And looks like the Cavaliers will be getting Larry Nance back. He was dealing with an illness, but he's going to be available to play Wednesday. And Cleveland's Jared Allen concussion is also available on Wednesday. So it looks like their backcourt is dealing with some issues, some possible doubtful plays, but their front court is getting healthy with Nance and Jared Allen. So it may not be with Sexton or Garland, but it looks like Allen and Nance are going to be back for Cleveland here today. Otherwise, I'm not seeing any other super important, impactful news that we should talk about. So we'll go ahead and cap it off there, but definitely keep plugged into the news throughout the day, because that's one big way where you can gain an edge or an advantage versus PrizePicks or the various sports books out there. If you're quick enough to react and react accurately, that could be a leg up on your competition. So if you're a member of our Discord community, by the way, there's going to be a link down in the description of the video for the Discord. I have an NBA news channel set up, so all the rosters and injury news and starting lineup news and all that stuff will be automatically updated for you if you're a member of the Discord community. So definitely jump in if you're not a member yet. And if you want to become a premium member, help support my work and get access to spreadsheets that I put together daily with the help of some of my community members, well, it's just $20 a month. It's a pretty good value, and people are winning serious money just by being a $20 a month Patreon member. So I'll leave a link for the Patreon down in the description of today's video as well. So goal for today's video, let's set the goal at 25 likes. I'm going to take the over on 25 likes. I think we could get 26 or more likes. So without further ado, let's start getting into some of these single stat player props that I'm feeling today. And the first one we're going to talk about is the points category, and more specifically, we're going to look at RJ Barrett, who's projected at 17.5 real life points today. I think that he goes under. That is my initial hunch. We're going to do the research together, and I'm going to show you how you can research these player props for free. Cost you little to nothing, except for maybe a little bit of your time and effort. So let's go ahead and do that now. So the first site I have up here is numberfire.com. Now, if you hit Control F, you can bring up a little search function here, and we can start typing in RJ Barrett's name, and it pops right up. It's highlighted here in orange. If you're on a Mac, Command F does the same thing for you. Anyway, you can see that his projection as far as points go are 16.5 points tonight. So that puts him a whole point under 17.5. So the under definitely looking like the way to go. But before we go any further, let's talk about the game total and the spread here real quick, because that is also an indicator, a thing that I like to look at on whether I'm going to take overs or unders on certain players. And you can see that this New York Knicks, New Orleans Pelicans game is projected for 219 total points, and New Orleans is a 2.5 point favorite at home. So pretty decent total, not super high. I like those games that are like 225, 230 points. Leads to a little bit more real life points, assists, rebounds, and even 3-pointers made. But 219, not terrible. I am liking the spread though. That's a green for me. This game does look like it's going to stay close and competitive throughout, so I'm not afraid to play anybody from this game. You know how blowouts go. They can be a number one contributing factor to ruined lineups, so we definitely don't want to try and take anybody from blowout situations, but this one doesn't look like that. So far, RJ Barrett looking like an under based on the projections on NumberFire. Now, the next thing I like to do is go to NBA.com/players, and here they've got a nice little search function. So once again, we could just type in RJ Barrett's name, and up he comes. We control-click on his name. It opens up a new tab, and you can see his player card pops right up here. Now, this is nice because it shows us his points per game average for the season is 17.4, which is slightly under 17.5. So when given the spectrum of 17 to 18 points, Barrett is more often than not on the 17 side of things, which is where we need him to be tonight if we're looking to take the under, 17 points or less. But I don't stop there. I click on the stats tab, and then from the stats tab, you can click this little traditional splits link. And then from there, you can click advanced filters, change the season segment from all games to 5 games. So we can get an idea of his last 5 games, how he's been performing in terms of scoring the basketball in his recent ones. Now you can see that in that 5-game window, he's played in all 5 of those games, and he's scoring 19.4 points per game in his last 5. So his scoring average is actually higher than his season average in his last 5 games. So this puts a little bit of doubt in my head in terms of how comfortable I feel about taking RJ Barrett under 17.5 points. Now, keep in mind that just because he's been scoring well in his last 5 games doesn't mean that this matchup's an easy one, or that, he's going to just have a cakewalk tonight versus New Orleans. So those are other things you have to consider. Game totals, spread, the matchup, in other words, DVP, defense versus position. Those are some other things to take into consideration as well. So don't be completely scared off by the 5-game averages. That's my point. So the next site we go to is rotowire.com/betting/NBA/player-props.php. That's the entire link. Anyways, what this website helps with is allowing you to see the different player props for the NBA players. And in this case, we're looking at points, as you can see here. And then from there, we can do another little search. Lots of searching, lots of researching. And RJ Barrett's name pops right up. Now you could get a side-by-side view of the different sports books. Didn't mean to do that. So we got DraftKings Sportsbook at 17.5 points. RJ Barrett not really seeing any type of action over or under. It's a tie right now. On FanDuel, however, at 17.5, people are taking the under on RJ Barrett. On BetMGM, a little bit of a different position. People on BetMGM are taking the over on RJ Barrett at 17.5. And then finally, PointsBet, it looks like the action is pretty much split here. Minus 115 under and minus 115 over. So my final verdict here is probably going to be fade RJ Barrett. I'm not going to lie to you. It doesn't look very clear according to Vegas at this moment. Also, when you have conflicting averages, like season averages are lower than tonight's projection, but his last 5 games are higher than tonight's projection, it kind of just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and it makes me just want to walk away and find a better pick elsewhere. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to recommend you do the same. Fade RJ Barrett unless you have some sort of hunch or some sort of insider information that makes you lean one way or the other. So I'm going to take him off of my prospective plays list right now. We'll give him a little strike through action, and we'll move on to the next guy, which is going to be Eric Bledsoe. Now, Eric Bledsoe is projected at 12.5 points right now over on PrizePicks. And I say right now because these projections, they change throughout the day. So just because we've got Eric Bledsoe at 12.5 right now at 11:30 a.m. here on the East Coast doesn't mean that later on tonight he won't get bumped up to 13 or 13.5 or bumped down to 12 or 11.5. You know, they're always adjusting the lines on PrizePicks. So Eric Bledsoe at 12.5, I think I'm leaning toward the over so far. But let's dig in a little deeper and see what the research tends to show. All right, we've already talked about the game totals being not too bad, the spreads being competitive, and not worrying about a blowout. So with Bledsoe, they've got him at 12.8 projected points, which puts him slightly over 12.5. So we need him to get 13 or more points if we're looking to take the over on Bledsoe today, correct? So let's go ahead and type his name in here into NBA.com's little search function. We can control click, up pops his player card. Now you can see for the season, 11.9 points per game, so almost 12 points per game, but that's under 12.5. So that raises a little bit of a red flag for me, but we're not going to stop there. Let's see how he's been performing recently, because I think those are the ones that matter the most, that carry the most weight. Those recent game logs, because a lot can change from the course of a season average to just like a last 5-game or 3-game window. And you can see that, yeah, his scoring has bumped up to 13.8 points. So he's scoring better in recent games than he has been for the course of the season. So that is a good sign, a green flag in this case for Eric Bledsoe. Now we move on from there and we look at the RotoWire player props and we type in Eric Bledsoe's name. And there you go. DraftKings Sportsbook, they've got him at 12.5 as well. Not really seeing any juice over or under there. But on FanDuel, you can see that he's a minus 122 for the over, meaning people are betting the over on his 12.5 point prop. So that is looking good. Let's move over to BetMGM. Same situation, minus 125 on the over at 12.5 points. And last but not least, a very strong over position is what people are taking on PointsBet at 12.5 points for Eric Bledsoe. So all in all, guys, I'm liking the way that the game totals and spread are looking. I'm also liking the way that his last 5-game point per game scoring average is looking. It's on the up and up, scoring over 13 points per game. And finally, I'm liking the way that the sports books, at least 3 out of 4 of them, are liking the over on Eric Bledsoe today. So I'm going to stick with it. Eric Bledsoe over, I think, can make for a solid play tonight. Now with Eric Bledsoe out of the way, we're going to move to the Philadelphia 76ers and talk both Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. We're going to start things off with point guard Ben Simmons. They take on the Brooklyn Nets tonight, a pretty highly anticipated matchup. 2 of the better teams in the Eastern Conference facing off. This game does tip off at 7:10 p.m. Ben Simmons is at 13.5 points, and at 13.5, I don't think that that's quite high enough. But we will find out for sure here and see how things are looking for Mr. Ben Simmons. So we type in his name and you can see that he's projected at 15 points. That's 1.5 whole points higher than 13.5 on PrizePicks. So I'm liking the way things are shaping up so far for Ben Simmons. Now let's look at the game totals and the spread for this one. Scroll on over here. I think they're going to be down here. Yep. The game total is 228 points, so that's fantastic. That's more than 225, creeping up to 230 total points. I'm loving the spread as well. It's just minus 6.5. Philadelphia, the favorite at home. Not too worrisome for me. I think Brooklyn does have enough talent that they should be able to hang around, stick around with this Philadelphia 76ers team. So I'm not fading anybody from this game. I think the totals look good and the spread looks good enough for me to target some players here. So far the over on Ben Simmons looking like a good way to go. Now back to NBA.com we go. We're going to type in his name here and see what kind of results we get for Ben Simmons in terms of his season averages in his last 5 games. You can see for the season, 14.8 points per game. Well, that's quite a bit higher than 13.5. I don't know that they're doing Ben Simmons any justice on PrizePicks today. Like I said, 13.5 just seems kind of light. So let's click the stats tab. We'll go down to traditional splits, click advanced filters, change this season segment from all games just to the last 5 games, and we'll click run and see what happens. Okay. Maybe this is why they've got him a little lower on PrizePicks. If you look at his last 5 games, he's scoring at just 10 points per game. Little bit of a cause for concern. Now, I will say that NBA players typically play up to their averages. I don't expect Ben Simmons to score just 10 points again. I expect him to be scoring higher and closer to what his season averages are for the most part. Now, we'll do our last bit of research here by going back to RotoWire, typing in Mr. Simmons' name, and you can see at 13.5 points on DraftKings Sportsbook, they've got him going over at -120. Now on FanDuel, things don't look so clear. FanDuel, people are betting the under more than they're betting the over at -112. We don't have anything up on BetMGM, nor do we have anything up for PointsBet. So if you want to wait and see if this player prop for Ben Simmons gets posted to these other sports books later in the day, I don't blame you. You don't have to go out and jump on this pick right away, but I still do think that there's some credibility here to taking Ben Simmons over. Just wait for things to maybe develop a little bit more on DraftKings or FanDuel and the various sports books. So there you have it for Big Ben Simmons. Now, we talked about the next guy, Tobias Harris. He's another play that I like the over on. I just don't think that they're quite high enough on Tobias Harris at 18.5 points versus Brooklyn. With the totals being what they are and the spread being pretty competitive, I expect it to stay close. I think that Tobias Harris can eclipse 18.5 points. So let's do the diligent research here for Tobias Harris. We'll type in his name, and you can see that at 21.2 points, that puts him well over 18.5 points. So they're liking the over on real life points for Tobias Harris, and I think that I agree for the most part. So let's move over to NBA.com, and we find Mr. Tobias Harris, and then at 18.5 points, you can see his season average is 20.4 points, so still quite a bit higher than 18.5. So the only thing that I could possibly think of is that maybe in his last 5 games, he hasn't been scoring as well as his averages for the seasons. But let's go ahead and take a look and just verify. And yes, that is the case here. Scoring just 16 points per game in his last 5 games. He's appeared in 4 out of those last 5 games. So yeah, his scoring average has dropped a little bit down to 16. But I do expect that to be a bit better in this matchup here. So we're going to look over on RotoWire and see how the juice is flowing here for Tobias Harris. You can see DraftKings Sportsbook, they got him at 18.5. FanDuel, they've got him up there at 18.5. And you're seeing some conflicting information here. So DraftKings, they've got him going over at -121. FanDuel, they got him going under at -122. So yeah, kind of button heads here. It's not looking super clear on Tobias Harris. So this could be another situation where you kind of wait and see. Maybe these other sports books post a points prop for Tobias Harris and we get a little bit more information, a better read on how things are going for these Philadelphia 76ers scorers. All right, with that one in the books, we can talk the next guy, and we're going Nikola Vucevic points, 21.5. Now, my initial read or my initial hunch here on Vucevic is going to be over 21.5. So let's take a look. He's taking on his former team, the Orlando Magic, tonight, and you got to think that maybe Vucevic looks to have a big game against his former team. So let's find out here, see how the numbers are looking. All right, we got Vooch at 22 points over on Number Fire, so that puts him a half a point over 21.5. So the over definitely looking like the way to go so far. Let's look at the game totals and the spread real quick of this one. Did I miss it? There it is. So many games tonight. All right, 217.5 points, not a very good total, kind of on the lower side. And Chicago is a 10-point favorite. So 10-point spread, that's a little worrisome, but I do think Vucevic could be the main reason or a big contributor to this blowout here of 10 points. I do expect them to try and get him the ball and let him do his thing. And if there's no Mo Bamba in there, it's going to come down to Wendell Carter Jr. trying to stop Nikola Vucevic. And yeah, good luck, Mr. Carter. I just don't think that it's going to happen. I think Vuce has a good opportunity here to go over this number. But let's look and see how things have been shaping up here for Vuce in his last few games. And we've talked about it before when discussing Vucevic. 24 points per game. Of course, a majority of those games came when he was a member of the Orlando Magic. He's only been with Chicago for a short period of time, but it's a big enough sample size that we should be able to get a pretty good read in his last 5 games, how he has been scoring the basketball. So let's go ahead and do that. So in his last 5, he's at 22.8 points. So yes, I'm digging it. I'm liking the over here. The last 5 game averages are looking really good. Plus, you've got the little bit of a narrative here of him versus his former team. He's probably going to look to play a good game here. And I just don't see anybody really standing in his way on this Orlando Magic team. So if we head on over to RotoWire, you can see that nothing is up here in terms of a points prop for Nikola Vucevic. On FanDuel, they've got him at 21.5. People are taking the over there, slight over. Now, BetMGM, they're taking an even more aggressive position here on this over on Nikola Vucevic in 21.5 points. And then finally, PointsBet at 21.5. People are also taking the over there. He's a minus 120. So you can see that the 3 sports books that do have a points prop up for Nikola Vucevic, they're all taking the over on 21.5 points. Plus the way that the projections are looking, he's expected to score at least 22. So yeah, I'm rolling with it. I think Vucevic over 21.5 points makes a lot of sense. Now, I don't have any assist player props for you today, but we do have a few good rebound props and 3-point props for you. So let's go ahead and move over to the rebound section. And starting things off, we're going to talk Josh Richardson, the Dallas Mavericks swingman. He's at 3.5 boards right now. They take on the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. The game tips off at 9:40 p.m. So let's go ahead and look at the game totals for that one, see how things might be shaping up here. And you can see that this game total's pretty good, 225.5 points. Memphis, a 2-point underdog at home. So good game totals, good competitive spread. Doesn't look like it's going to blow out for any reason unless one of these big stars is ruled out. But as of right now, we don't have any news that would indicate that happening. So let's move to the rebound column. We will highlight that, and then we can look for Mr. Josh Richardson. And there you have it. He's at 3.4 boards. So already I'm liking the under on 3.5. We just need him to have 3 rebounds or less. If he gets 4 and we take the under, well, we're in deep doo-doo. So let's hope that he just sticks to 3 rebounds. So now let's do a search, of course, over on NBA.com. Richardson pops right up. And you can see that based on his player card here, his rebound per game for the season is 3.6 boards per game, which puts him slightly over 3.5. So the over looking like the way to go based on his averages. But we're going to dig into his game logs here and look at his last 5 games and see how things are shaping up recently. All right, so in his last 5, just 3.8 rebounds per game, which is still higher than 3.5. So this is looking a little sketchy here. Both his season averages and his last 5 game averages are both higher than 3.5 rebounds. The only thing that's really working in our favor right now is this projection on NumberFire saying that he's going to go for less than 3.5 rebounds. But again, this one's not looking super strong at the moment. Now, you probably can't see it on your screen, but if you go to RotoWire and you go to their props section, down at the bottom, they got this handy little toolbar. You just click rebounds and boom, it takes you right to where you want to go. And then we could start doing our typing and searching. And you can see at 3.5 boards on DraftKings Sportsbook, not really seeing any strong movement over or under on that prop. Over on FanDuel, people are hammering the under there, though, at 3.5 rebounds, minus 130 on the under. And then finally, the last sports book who has a prop up for Josh Richardson's rebounds, they got him at 3.5 boards as well. And people, again, are smashing the under more so than the over. So 2 out of the 3 sports books are indicating that the juice is flowing on the under for Josh Richardson and these 3.5 rebounds tonight. So there you have it. The next guy I want to talk about is Chicago Bulls guard Zach LaVine. He's at 4.5 boards. Of course, we've already talked about the game totals not being so hot in this one. We're also looking at a 10-point spread in this one, so it's a little, a little murky, a little worrisome. But at 4.5 boards, my initial reaction was that Zach LaVine could pull down at least 5 boards or more. So I'm taking the over here. Let's look at his projection. And I think it will agree based on my earlier research. They got him at 4.7 rebounds. So puts him slightly above 4.5, meaning that between 4 and 5 rebounds, he's more often than not on that 5 side of things, which is where we need him tonight. So let's go ahead and look at some recent averages and season averages for Zach LaVine. Now, for the season, his rebound average is 5.1, which is good news for us if we're looking to take the over on 4.5, because we just need him to grab 5 boards, just 5. We're not looking for 15. We're not looking for 20 plus rebounds like Clint Capella last night. By the way, good luck, or good for you guys who played the Clint Capella play that I posted in the Discord. If you played that over 15 rebounds, man, you cashed for sure, for sure. All right, traditional splits, advanced filters. You know the drill. Last 5 games. And in his last 5 games, he is pulling down 6.6 rebounds per game. So that is good news for us. That means his rebounds are actually trending up versus his season average. So I'm liking the way things are shaping up here for Zach LaVine to go over 4.5 boards. Now, last but not least, we're going to move over to RotoWire. Let's type in Zach LaVine's name. And at 4.5 boards on DraftKings Sportsbook, people are taking the over. 4.5 on FanDuel, people are taking the over. 4.5 on BetMGM, the over is the way to go. And finally, PointsBet, 4.5, they are smashing the over. He's a big minus 130 over there. So, guys, this is looking like a super solid play. Zach LaVine for 5 or more rebounds. Take the over on the 4.5 boards and ride with me on that one. Okay, and the final guy that we're going to talk about is another Chicago Bull player, and that is Thaddeus Young, who is at 6.5 boards. At 6.5 boards, I'm taking the under. At least that's my initial hunch or position. So let's do our little diligence here and research and figure out if we want to stick with that, or maybe we want to flip-flop, or maybe we want to fade, because fading is always an option if you don't like the way things are stacking up for a guy. So at 6.5 boards, he is actually projected at just 5.1 rebounds. Pretty big differential here on number fires. So they like the under on rebounds so far. Let's go ahead and type his name in. And you can see Thaddeus Young comes right up because there's only one Thaddeus in the NBA, and it is Mr. Thaddeus Young. Now for the season, he's pulling down 6.4 rebounds per game, which is still under 6.5 boards, meaning that more often than not, he's on the 6 side of things versus the 7 rebound side of things. So I'm liking the way things are looking there. We click the stats tab, and then we move on down to traditional splits. Change this from advanced from all games to last 5 games. You know what I'm trying to say by now. Now, in his last 5 games, his rebound averages are at 6, which puts him, again, under 6.5. If he pulls down 6 boards and we take the under, we're happy campers. Yes, it will cause us to sweat. Yes, it will cause us anxiety and stress. But if the game ends and he's at 6 rebounds or less, boy, we'll be happy. We'll be all so happy. All right, so the last thing we're going to do here is type in his name, and you can see that DraftKings, they got him at 6.5. People are taking the over there, actually. A slight favorite to go over on DraftKings, so that's kind of surprising. Now on FanDuel, 6.5. People are taking the under at minus 128. And BetMGM, the same thing, minus 120 on the under. And finally, PointsBet, again, they are smashing the under there. He is a minus 130 on 6.5 rebounds. So I'm sticking to my guns. I know one of these sites here, they took the over, that being DraftKings, but I'm leaning toward the under on Thaddeus Young and hoping that 6 rebounds or less number holds up. Take the under on Thaddeus Young. All right. That just leaves a couple of names to discuss, and we're going to discuss them as 3-point plays potentially. Now, 3-point plays for me have been extremely accurate, extremely hot. So I hope you're all paying attention at home or wherever you're watching this from, work, the bathroom, you name it. Julius Randle is going to be the first guy we talk about. 2.5 3-pointers made today. I got him projected to go under right now. So let's take a look at Julius Randle. We don't have any projections to look at, but we can look at his recent game logs and kind of get an idea of how he's shooting the ball from beyond the arc for both the season and for his last 5 games. So we click stats, move on down here, and you can see that for the season, he is attempting 5 3-pointers per game, and on those 5 3-pointer attempts, he's making 2 out of 5. So if he makes 2 tonight, again, we're going to sweat it a little bit, but that's okay because we just need him to make 2 or less in this situation. Now let's look at his last 5 games and see how he's been shooting it from beyond the arc there. All right, so in his last 5, his 3-point attempts are at 5.2, but guys, he's only making 1.2 3-pointers in his last 5 games. So loving the way that's looking. That means that between 1 and 2 3-point makes, more often than not, he's just making 1 per game. Now, 1 make versus a prop of 2.5 makes, man, I'm taking that all day. Give me the under on Julius Randle and these 3-point player props. But the last thing we're going to do is look at RotoWire, and we're going to type in Mr. Randle's name, and you can see how the action's going on these various sports books. Now, nothing really moving here on DraftKings. On FanDuel, people are taking the under, slightly taking the under. On BetMGM, they are taking a bigger, stronger position on the under, -120. And then finally, PointsBet at 2.5, they're taking the under there as well at -120. So sign me up. I'm taking the under on Julius Randle and this 2.5 3-point prop. All right, and the last and final guy that we're going to talk about before wrapping up the video is Philadelphia 76ers guard Seth Curry. Yes, the brother of Steph. Not quite as good of a shooter as Steph, but a great shooter in his own right. We've already talked about them taking on the Brooklyn Nets, and yeah, I think that the ball will be going up quite a bit in this game. Now, Seth's at 1.5 3-point makes. I have him going over. I think he can make at least 2 threes in this matchup, in this game. So let's take a look and see how he's been shooting the ball for the season and how he's been shooting the ball in his last 5 games. Alrighty. So for the season, he is attempting 4.8 3-pointers. Put them, just below 5 3-point attempts per game, but he's making 2. And that's all we need him to make tonight is 2. I think this is very doable. He's a pretty solid shooter. So that looks good so far. Now let's change this from the full game, or full season, I should say, and move it to his last 5 games and see how things have changed. Now he's still attempting a pretty good amount, 4 3-pointers, but that number is slightly down versus his season average of 3-point attempts. The other thing is that he's making just 1 out of 4 right now. Now, he's too good of a shooter to be making just 25% of his 3-point attempts per game. I think that this is a good situation for a bounce back here for Seth Curry. I don't believe that this number of 1 is going to be his new average for the rest of the season. I think there's an opportunity here for him to improve on his 3-point makes. So I'm still leaning on the over for Seth so far. Now, the last thing we're going to do is move to his 3-point props on the various sports books. And at 1.5, you could see people are hammering the over on DraftKings Sportsbook, -139. Here on FanDuel, they got him at 1.5 as well. They are smashing the over as well at -138. We got nothing on BetMGM, nothing on PointsBet. But man, I'm liking the way that the juice is flowing for Seth Curry and this 1.5 3-point prop. I'm still sticking to my guns and probably taking the over on Seth Curry for sure. What do you guys think? That's going to do it for today's video. Is there any plays that are jumping out at you? Hopefully both of my 3-point plays line up. I've hyped them up. Look, if you're a member of our Patreon group and you're in our Discord, you know how well those 3-point player props have been working out for us. So I think we're going to hit on at least 1 out of these 2 guys that I've mentioned in today's video. What do you think? Drop a comment down in the comment section below. Definitely give me a thumbs up if you're liking this content. I think prop betting, player props, single stat props, whatever you want to call them, is the future. I think daily fantasy sports will go by the wayside. It'll be for the hardcore, geeky sports enthusiasts. And I think that this new form of betting on players, whether it be points, assists, rebounds, or three-pointers made, is going to be the new wave of the future in the next 5 to 10 years. So we're here early, we're ahead of the game, and hopefully we'll be one of the louder voices here on YouTube, thanks to all of your support. So my name's CJ, this has been Out of Bounds. Thank you for tuning in. Good luck tonight. I hope some of these plays hit for you. Let's go get some money on PrizePicks. Peace.